So, there's one thing I want to explain in this video that's very important, and that's my record of suicide. So, I bet if you looked in my file, it would say suicidal thoughts. Or I would love to see my file because it probably caused me immense harm because a lot of it's just complete fantasy. I'm not kidding. These doctors are feeding in the fantasies and going in the fantasy land themselves. Um, Based on nothing but doctors that my mother continued to doctor shop around in 4 different states, running me around. If they didn't agree with her, change to another doctor. That doctor doesn't agree with you, change to another doctor. Until you find a doctor like Dr. Blum who's willing to give this woman a bunch of medications. I mean, when my mother was lying, I should just let it go, is what this doctor said. When my mother makes up stories to the teachers, or when the teachers are calling home telling her she needs to stop, or when she's trying to convince me that I'm schizophrenic because I'm playing with action figures, I should just let it go. So I tried that, and oh boy did it. Now I have a bunch of shit on my record for life because I let it go. I let my mother completely lie about me, and I used to say she's lying. Please don't believe these lies. But now I got a Dr. Blum telling me to let her do it. On top of this, and see, they think that I was just full of shit when I said that she was lying. I say, I'm crying. You got a son that is crying. And at the doctor's office saying, please, please have her stop lying about me. Please, my mother keeps on lying about me, making up stories. I just won a swimming medal. I mean, that's all I did. I won a swimming medal and tried to show it to her. No, you're a thief and you're a liar and you have attachment disorder and you must have put that ZG on the back yourself because you want to get back at me. That's how my mother was. She always thought somebody was out to get her. She always thought somebody was out to get her. This was part of my mother's mental illness. But then she projected that onto me. Instead of handling her everybody's out to get me attitude, she projected illnesses into me. And then nobody would pay any attention to what she was doing, right? Her pill popping, her drinking, the craziness, the ruler beatings, the overdose, the full bottle of Epicac, all the craziness. Nobody will pay any attention to that because my mother's making up mental issues for me. Because then everybody will pay attention to Zach. It's the old trick of the sleight of hand. Look over here and don't look over here. Look at this hand, don't look at this hand. That's how sleight of hand works. You show the audience one hand, your right hand, and you're really putting something up your sleeve in your left hand. Well, this is what I'm tired of. I'm tired of all this bullshit sleight of hand. We got corrupt towns. We got my mother. We got my father. We got people lying, manipulating like fucking crazy. It's gonna get me killed and it's affecting my mental health. I cannot take any more of this. You only can abuse somebody mentally for so long. I got doctors abusing me mentally. I got the frickin' state abusing me mentally. I got 25 years of my mother abusing me mentally. This is what I want. I just want physical health care for the injuries I've received. I would like my Social Security and Social Security to have the truth down on paper, not some fantasy my mother spun to get out of trouble. This is what's going on. But every time I try to do this the right way, be a good Christian, pass on the truth, be honest, truthful, because when you lie, you project a bunch of evil into the world. And this is what my father and mother keep doing. Let's say I reported to Social Security that my father and mother lied to them for years, right? You know what my father would do? He would get me hurt. He would say, my son's just some big liar making up stories. Don't listen to him. Contact our attorney. We're not talking to you. We have a $20,000 attorney. Then Social Security doesn't have the money to fight their attorney. So they totally just make me seem like mine is a story. So then they make a note that my truth is a fantasy and my mother's and father's lie is the truth. So then I have to not get health care for the rest of my life. I have to have my mental health abused over and over. I have to crawl across busy traffic to get CT scans. I get denied health care. I get denied any services through the Department of Health and Human Services. And what's even worse is the more I try to ask them, the more I go, hey, stop abusing me and please do your jobs. Please stop. Because when you lie about me or when you twist stuff on paper, it affects my mental health. It's mental abuse. Please stop mentally abusing me in Rochester. Please. I'm begging you. All I want to do is get cash benefits, Social Security because of my real disabilities. I also want to make sure the truth is out there. I was poisoned for 15 years. I was trafficked to 4 different states. I was given an overdose at age 7 that fucked up my nervous system. My mother did fucked up stuff. Like, for instance, one time I was trying to play with action figures and my mother tried to make it in the schizophrenic type stuff. So my mother screamed at me that I needed to lie to the doctor and make up stories. She said, you need to lie to the doctor. Well, she didn't say lie, sorry. You need to tell the doctor that you're schizophrenic. I said, no, the doctors told me I'm not. They told you I'm not. And I have a friend across the hall in my program that is schizophrenic, and I'm not that for sure. He hears voices. That's what schizophrenic is. You hear voices. I don't have that. So then I go back to playing with my action figures, going, jump off the cliff, boom, 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 boom. You know, whatever. They're G.I. Joes, you know, the big G.I. Joes. I'm just playing with them. I'm age like 10, 11, something like that, maybe even 13. So then my mother gets really mad and she starts screaming at me. No, you need to tell the doctor it. If you think you are or not, I know, you need to repeat this phrase. I am schizophrenic and I hear voices. I said, Mom, I can't lie for you. I never heard a voice in my life. So that would be a lie. Are you asking me to lie? That's what I'm thinking in my head. What is my mother asking me to lie? So I just tell my mother, no, I'm not going to lie for you. And then, boom, boom, boom. Then she gets even more mad. She starts getting violent, like she's going to hit me with a ruler again. Or she's going to start trying to force drugs into my food again or something. I don't know what the fuck she's going to do. So then I get up and I try to go to my room to get away from her before she starts abusing or pilling me or who knows what she's going to do in this violent stage. So she follows me. She starts following me all the way to the hallway. So we were in like the living room carpet area where the line meets the kitchen. So maybe an inch from the kitchen. I get up and I go through the kitchen. I take a right through this little hallway with rainbow steps. Rainbow tiles. And just as I get to the staircase, my mother starts screaming at me some more. You need to tell the doctor you are schizophrenic. You need to tell the doctor this so we can get schizophrenic meds. I want schizophrenic meds. This is what my mother was saying over and over and over. This is nuts. I've never heard a voice in my life. Why do you want me to be drugged so bad? You already got me on 7 pills, and I'm experiencing emergency room visits. I'm drooling in the morning. I can't do my homework or anything in the morning. I got thrown up. At the age of 19, I lost my job because I was drooling and too tired in the mornings. I'm not even kidding. I was a teacher's aide for the ECC for special needs children, and I lost that job because I was too tired in the mornings from all the drugs that my mother brainwashed me into believing I needed. Oh, I was brainwashed in a half. I got all this fucking brainwashing done. It was terrible. I still have flashbacks of mental and PTSD and mental health disorders from it. And what's even worse is when the Department of Health and Human Services totally dismisses what I tell them. What they do every time. Every time I try to explain this to somebody, they just dismiss it completely, and then they hurt me. They do. They affect my mental health, or they cause physical harm to my body with their choices. Or they play a game if they're corrupt. If they're corrupt and they have a motive, then a lot of times I don't know about their motive. But they're doing a lot of stuff behind scenes that's going to get me seriously hurt and affect my mental health. Like, for instance, I am so safe here. Oh my God, as long as I am in the warmth, I don't have a seizure. But if my reports of the landlord being abusive have not been going to the town, then I would be scared for my own safety. Now, as long as the reports, and I have that Ring camera for it too, I have a Ring camera installed because of our safety issues. But as long as the reports are going to the right place, I feel safe. But they're not. But I always feel safe indoors because I have a reduced amount of seizures, I don't shake, I can talk like I am in this video. But if I'm living outside, now keep in mind I can't use shelters. If I go to a shelter, they throw me out for my disabilities because they're undocumented. The minute I can't move my body, the minute it's too cold, the minute I fall in the shower, they don't let me back in or they just throw me out. And this is policy. If you don't have your disabilities documented, you can't stay at a shelter until you get them documented. Now, I've spent 7 years trying to get this documented, and I've spent my whole life during childhood trying to get it documented. But there was a mother with money who was trafficking me around the country and covering it up. A 5-year-old can't beat a 50-year-old with money who is trafficking you from state to state. Nothing I said or nothing I did. Plus, I couldn't figure it out. I was only 5. Now, as an adult, no, nobody wants to do their jobs. They rather just continue to write more bullshit down and feed into my mother's fantasy. It's just shit rolling downhill. The more I go to the doctors, the more I go to ask for help, the worse this gets. The worse my mother's fantasy gets. I'm not kidding. For instance, let's get back to the suicide stuff. When I was living in the woods, they would find me frozen to death and they would bring me back to life. Then they would release me. Then they would find me frozen to death and bring me back to life. Then they would release me. Then somebody would hijack me and steal my wallet and my ID and beat me over the head. Then they would release me from the ER again. Then somebody would break me, like hit me or something to rob me again, but they would find no money. Then they would release me again. Then I would be found drunk someplace, and then I would literally be scraped off the ground, and then they would release me again. Then they would find me unconscious from a seizure in the middle of the sidewalk. Then they would release me again. Then I would be a rape victim where somebody threw me in the bushes and tried to rape me. Then the hospital didn't take the report and they just released me again. The only time the hospital ever kept me is when they asked this question, "Are you suicidal?" And I would answer it this way: well, I do want to die while I'm already dying in the woods. If I'm going to die a slow, painful death, and I have to just go back in and out of this hospital, and you guys aren't going to treat me for my actual illness, then yes, I am suicidal. And I was, when I was living in the woods, freezing to death, and I would go unconscious, and then they would, release me back out of the hospital. There were times where I cut myself. Like for once, I was losing my toes. I had frostbite on both my feet. I went into the hospital. They said, "Stay off my feet." They released me. I couldn't stay off my feet because I can't use the shelter properly. They always throw my ass out. So then I try anyways, but no, it doesn't work. They said I need documentation from the doctor about my feet and my disabilities, what I didn't have, so they threw my ass to the street once again. So I walk around some more. My feet get worse. So I have to go back to the emergency room. Now they're red and they're swollen. Stay off your feet or this is going to get worse. So another couple weeks go around. Now I'm still got frostbite. I'm still in nothing but sneakers. It's still my shoes are soaking wet. Still, my frostbite gets worse. Now they're turning purplish blue on the tips and the rest are red, pink all over. My feet are all swollen. It's really bad, really painful. I'm screaming every day, every step. I probably need a wheelchair. I can't walk. My whole nervous system's all fucked up. I'm having trouble moving. So I go into the emergency room and I tell them this again. They say, "Stay off my feet or the next time I come in, they're going to have to remove my toes." So they released me after only an hour of seeing me. At this point, I am extremely worried for my safety. I cannot live out here without toes. I am seizing and I'm about to fall down. I can't walk without screaming in pain and seizing. I have nowhere to go. I'm living outside and I'm feeling suicidal. I feel like hanging myself from a tree because this is a slow, painful death. I don't want to die. This is the thing. I don't want to die. I want to live. But the states want to kill me. My mother and father want me dead. They want me dying from this. Nobody wants to help me with this. They prefer to kill me slowly. Well, I don't want to die in the woods, a slow, painful death. I don't want that. And I know that if I try to commit suicide the quick way, I'll either have no pain ever again, or they'll put me in a hospital where maybe I can recover a little. So it's a win-win if I die, a quick death. So I grab a glass bottle, I cut my wrist, and I go into the hospital. I say, will this keep me off my feet? And they say yes. So they ask me if I'm suicidal, and I tell them this. Well, I want to stay alive, but I keep on dying into the woods. You guys scrape me off the cement on the river walk with my body temperature 72, and you have to bring me back to life. I had a seizure. My face was bloody. You found me on the crosswalk and said I was robbed, even though that one was another seizure. And there was another one where I really was robbed. I got bricks and all this other shit. I got drunken, disorderly in the middle of the road. I got times where I falled and had a seizure, but somebody came by and poured booze over my body. I'm not kidding. There was a time where I had no alcohol in my body whatsoever. No, not a drop. My blood, my piss, all of it was alcohol and drug free. I asked somebody to call an ambulance and then I passed out. Now, as I was coming to, in and out, somebody was pouring something over my head that smelled like booze, over my body, my clothing. Um, when the ambulance finally arrived and brought me to the hospital, the nurses asked me why I have no alcohol in my system. That's a weird question. Why is the hospital asking me this question? I said, "What the fuck you mean? Yeah, I'm sober. I have no alcohol in my system." Exactly. They said. Then they got all mad at me. They gave me, "Yeah, well, we know that." Yeah, so why are you coming asking why am I sober? What the hell's wrong with you people? Then she elaborated, well, we think that there's something up because we found you unconscious on the side of the road and you smell and reek like booze, but yet there's no alcohol in your entire system. I said, of course. Somebody poured booze all over me because I asked for an ambulance. And then they're like, oh, do you think they wrote that one properly at the emergency room? Probably not. Or how about when I was almost raped? I had a seizure in a bedroom. My face got blown open. Blood all over the place on the wall. It's still there now. Took about 2 days for my disabled friends to call for help. When I got to the emergency room in Rochester, they didn't even help. It was so concerning that when they released me, all the nurses wanted to send me back into the emergency room, but the doctor refused. And that's because I reported a potential rape situation and a seizure and bloody everything. And yet, the doctor didn't want any part of this. He did not even look into it. This is the help I get. I have a seizure and somebody tries to rape me right after the seizure. And this was reported by somebody else in the hospital. But he's an unreliable witness because literally this is just a storyteller. I take care of very mental people. I'm a very good caregiver. Not that my records reflect that. If you ask my friends, my bosses, if you ask the people close to me, they'll say, "Oh, Zach is great. He answers the doctor calls with me. He helps me with my medication. He cleans up my feces off of the floor. He helps me get dressed. He bought me a bed when I had nowhere to sleep. He helps me pay the rent. He helps me organize my finances. He helps me know how to shop more properly and save money." This is the stuff I do, caregiving. But if you look at the record, it will totally mislead you. And that's because my mother and father want the state misled. If I go to the doctors, they have no idea the person that everybody else knows. So the person my boss knows, the person my coworkers know, is not the person the doctor knows. They know a fantasy. They know my mother's fantasy. Same thing with the state. Same thing with this town of Rochester, but Rochester's a little different. They have a reason for this. They want the apartment I'm in to be rented out, but it can't be. There's an illegal septic tank, there's waterfalls coming in, and people are getting sick and dying. But this was before I moved in. This was a problem before I got here. I just didn't know it. I did not know that there was multiple people in this building getting sick, and Rochester was making the reports disappear and purposely just telling them move so we can rent it out. Just move to another apartment, get sick over there, and then we'll rent this out to somebody else. I didn't know any of this. So keep that in mind, that I am sure that my records are not a reflection of me. And this is going to be sent to my attorney so they can understand that my records, my old medical records, and anything that is from Dover, Rochester, or Somersworth is fraudulent. They have literally fed into a dead woman's fantasy over and over. They have denied care due to a disability. They've denied services due to a disability, and they've purposely caused more mental harm to me. Oh, I can't take any more of this, my mother's fantasies being fed into. You need to listen to me. I'm honest. I'm truthful. I follow Jesus. These other people, I can't speak for. Okay? I can't speak for them. But if somebody has a motive, like saving money or they might get in trouble, then that might be the reason why they're lying to you. Like my mother caused an overdose at age 7, punished me with full bottles of Epicac, trafficked me around the country. She also caused a neurological disorder that doctors were telling her about at age 5, 6, 7. And we all know what that caused that. It started right with the overdose. So she had a very good reason to do this. Now, my father, not my mother, my father only, also has a very good reason to make sure none of this comes out. And don't forget, his new wife, his third wife, has a very good reason to try to make sure that nobody ever finds out, because she's using my father's money. If, for some reason, this comes out, maybe her happy times stop. You know, she doesn't care about me, she cares about her happy times. That's very important to understand. Rochester cares about their money. My father cares about money. My father's new wife really